We are streaming. The attendees have been let in from the public, and we have a fairly full agenda tonight. So being as it's a study session, we'll just call it to order. And Lori Lucas is on board. She'll be taking the attendance for us. We know that even though we're not a business meeting, we don't have to excuse anybody. We did get a phone call from Councilmember Blair that he's not available to come to the meeting tonight. And we have not heard from Councilmember Kaminsky at this point. We do have guests tonight. We have staff with us. So welcome everybody. And we will start right off with Karen Weiss from Solid Waste, Thurston County Solid Waste. Karen, are you able to share your screen and start the presentation? I'm going to allow you to, oops, I allowed Jeff to talk instead of Karen. Where'd you go?
All right there.
There you are.
Very good. I'm sorry for the delay. We seem to only have listen only ability for a minute. So thank you for your patience with me. I am waiting also for Wendy Mifflin from HDR to join us.
Okay. Wendy's here.
Is she here?
And I just allowed her to talk, so she should be popping up on our screen any moment. There she is.
Okay. Very good. I think we are in good shape then. I will just take a moment here to share my screen. Oh, it says host disabled participant screen sharing.
Oh, let's see. Who can share? All panelists, it says.
Oh, now I'm allowed. So let's see if that works. Okay. Okay.
And we can see your screen.
You can see my screen. Excellent. We're in good shape. And can you still see my screen?
Partially.
Not as much now, huh?
No.
All right. I will go back to.
Yeah. Now
okay.
I can. Yes. Now I can see the screen. The one slide and the slides. There you go.
Perfect.
You're in.
All right. All of our seems like all of the different technology we use has different ways to share and how it likes to see things on the screen. So anyway, thank you very much.
That's good.
Okay, so Wendy and I will begin our presentation. So first off, I'd like to thank the council for the opportunity to present today on our Thurston County Solid Waste Management Plan and Flow Control. And this presentation is coming about in response to a letter sent by our county manager, Ramiro Chavez, back on March 12th of 2021, and which I assume is included in your background materials. I am Karen Weiss. I am with Thurston County Public Works representing the Solid Waste Division. I have served in an interim solid waste manager role on a couple different periods of time in the last couple years. And with me tonight, I have Wendy Mifflin, who is with HDR Inc. She is a senior planner. And Wendy has over 30 years of experience in solid waste management, and she was the primary author and facilitator of our solid waste management plan and our process. So our presentation today will provide a background in the process that the solid waste management plan was developed. It's going to give an overview of the final plan and then give a context and discussion of flow control. So Wendy and I plan to move through this presentation fairly quickly, but we want to make sure we provide opportunity for questions. The questions don't all have to be at the end, so feel free to ask questions as we go along. So first, the background. So our 2021 Solid Waste Management Plan recommends strategies to manage solid waste in the county over the next 6 to 20 years, and it guides the actions of the county, participating cities, and waste haulers who operate within our county. This solid waste management plan replaces a plan that was last developed in 2009. And so as you can imagine, our county and our system, our solid waste disposal system, have changed and evolved quite a bit in the ensuing 12-year period of time. This plan is the collaborative effort of members of our Solid Waste Advisory Committee, who are known as the SWAC. And that SWAC is comprised of participating cities and industry representatives who are all subject matter experts and thought leaders in the solid waste field. And it incorporates a balanced approach to solid waste management in Thurston County. This committee also makes recommendations to our Thurston County Board of County Commissioners on policy issues. And this slide represents the participating members of the SWAC at the time of the solid waste management plan development, along with active participation of a representative from the Department of Ecology, who really assisted in the process of developing our plan. And I just want to take a moment to say thank you to the City of Yelm and to James Blair specifically, who participated in the development of this plan. So Washington state law governs the responsibilities for the county and cities for managing solid waste and the development and maintenance of the solid waste management plan. The plan includes several required elements, and these include an inventory and description of solid waste handling facilities, including any deficiencies in meeting our current needs, the projected 20-year needs for solid waste handling facilities, a comprehensive waste and recycling element, and an assessment of the plan's impacts on the cost of solid waste collection. This slide provides an overview of the process that's been taken to develop the comprehensive solid waste management plan and our current status. And so as you can see by the blue arrow on step 5, we are very close to the completion of the process. In January of 2021, the SWAC unanimously voted and recommended the 2021 solid waste management plan move forward for adoption by the participating cities and then the county. We have been doing outreach to all of the various cities and town in the county. And at this point, the city of Olympia has adopted through an ILA our solid waste management plan. And we've made presentations to many of the other jurisdictions and are just working through that final process. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Wendy, and she's going to discuss the specifics of the solid waste management plan development.
Good evening, everyone. Can you all hear me? I'm not sure if you can see me or not.
Can't see you, but we can hear you fine, Wendy.
Excellent. I'm coming to you from sunny but windy Ellensburg, Washington today, so I'm happy to be here and talk to you. I'm going to provide an overview of the current solid waste system in Thurston County. Next slide, please. And so the current system, of course, consists of many different operations. And so as garbage comes through the system, it is first eliminated through prevention or contamination reduction. And those are methods to reduce waste, such as consumer purchasing habits and eliminating contamination in the waste stream. Waste is then generated and goes into 3 different areas for handling. The first one is your garbage and construction and demolition debris, which in Thurston County currently gets landfilled. In 2020, that amounted to 206,000 tons of material that went to the landfill. In addition, yard waste is segregated. Yard waste and organics is segregated in Thurston County, and that material goes to composting, 32,700 tons in 2020. And then also the county system handles recyclables, curbside recyclables, and Dropbox recyclables, which amounted to 3,200 tons, and household hazardous waste, which is approximated 600 tons in the system. Current county solid waste facility locations. The county has 3 facilities, and I'll talk about them in a little bit. This is just a map of the sites, and of course the WARC site, the Waste and Recovery Center, which is located outside of Lacey, and then the Rainier and Rochester Dropbox sites, which are for self-hauler use in southern Thurston County. The first facility that we would like to talk to you about is the Waste and Recovery Center, which of course is outside of Lacey. and it consists of the closed Hawks Prairie landfill site with quite a bit of the infrastructure built on top of the closed landfill. And so you can see as you come in the gate, there's an inner city transit park, a closed loop park, and a dog park as you enter the facility. You come across scales, inbound scales, and if you are a self-hauler, you are directed to the self-haul area. If you're commercial, you go into the transfer building. And then there's a separate organics area for yard waste and food waste. And then after you have disposed of your waste, you take the outbound scales back out. You can see in the lower southern portion that there's also an area for recycling, and then the Hazo House, which handles hazardous materials from county residents. The county also has 2 Dropbox sites, as we saw on the map, in the southern end of the county, the Rainier Dropbox site and the Rochester Dropbox site. And both of those sites are for self-haulers only, so no commercial waste goes in there. Those sites offer a public tipping area for municipal solid waste and then a recycling area for recyclable materials. Currently, all of the municipal solid waste generated in Thurston County goes to the Roosevelt Regional Landfill, which is located in Roosevelt, Washington, in Klickitat County. The county is in the process of contracting for solid waste operations, maintenance, transport, and disposal to meet the values of the citizens, which are sustainability, economic development, environmental impacts to climate, air, water, and land, and equitable and sustainable methods for handling municipal solid waste. So the county is hoping to award new contract in 2020, and there's a possibility that Roosevelt will not be the final destination, but it currently is the regional landfill that all waste generated in the county goes to for disposal. So some historical and projected population for waste generation purposes. You can see that Thurston County is a growing county, and it is projected that there will be estimated population growth by 2025 of 10.7%, and by 2040, 29.7%. And that goes to waste generation because, of course, as you get more people, more waste is generated. And so there are estimated increases in waste coming of 14.3% by 2025 and 33.9% by 2040. The county has also put together a 6-year capital facilities plan for the solid waste division. And you can see that there are some major capital outlays coming over the next 6-year period. And so some of those that are of interest are renovations to the Rainier and Rochester Dropbox sites with potential security and utility upgrades and scale-in installation and some other renovations to make them more user-friendly at those sites. And then in addition, there are going to be some upgrades to the WARC facility. And you can see those that in 2024, looks like approximately $7 million in upgrades to that site. And this is to handle the customer load that is coming into that facility. Customer and tonnage is going up, and there needs to be some renovations in order to be able to handle the number of self-haulers that are coming into the facility, and also to handle the municipal solid waste and organics that come into that facility. So with that, we'd like to talk to you a little bit about the solid waste plan mission and goals. There is a mission statement that was established by the Solid Waste Advisory Committee, and that's that Thurston County and the participating jurisdictions provide citizens with efficient, reliable, and affordable solid waste collection, handling, recycling, and disposal services in order to improve the quality of life while protecting and preserving human health, environmental quality, and natural resources. The plan also has goals that they have established, And so for each of the elements below, which are infrastructure and system, economic sustainability, education, and outside influences, an assessment was completed of existing condition, and then needs and opportunities were identified. And I believe in your packet, you have a list of the specific goals for each element and the 5-year recommended plan strategies for those. And so to take a look at a couple of those, the county is looking at building the infrastructure needed to provide maximum recycling and waste diversion opportunities for the citizens in the county, and to manage waste in a cost-effective manner that promotes an order of priority waste reduction, reuse, and recycling. And in addition, they want to support and promote life cycle product stewardship and industry advancements in packaging standards, incorporate principles of equity and social justice in their solid waste planning, and then manage waste as a resource to increase local job opportunities and support economic development. The county and the Solid Waste Advisory Committee spent a lot of time ensuring that the system has a sustainable and equitable funding mechanism, and also considering environmental impacts to climate, air, water, and land that are associated with waste generation, transportation, handling, recycling, and disposal. And the county also took into consideration the Thurston County Climate Mitigation Plan as they went through the update to the Solid Waste Management Plan. Back to you, Karen.
Okay, thank you, Wendy. So with that stage set, we'll transition to flow control, which is necessitated by the state mandated requirements for solid waste management in our county. So I want to give an overview of flow control. It may be a new concept for some. So what is flow control? It is the legal basis for local government to designate the locations where municipal solid waste, or MSW, is taken for processing, treatment, and control. So what does flow control do? It helps assure that waste generated in our county is managed responsibly and ensures a steady, sustainable stream of solid waste and associated revenues to fulfill our county obligations. So how is municipal solid waste currently handled? Well, right now, the primary mechanism for managing our MSW in the county is through our transfer station development and service agreement with Republic Services and their subcontractor, LeMay. So under this agreement, all MSW generated in the county and the cities that the contractor or the subcontractor has the authority to collect must be delivered to the WARC in Lacey. So cities participating in the solid waste management plan through interlocal agreements also direct their collected MSW to our county facilities. So what's changing and why is flow control part of this presentation? Well, as Wendy mentioned earlier, our transfer station development and service agreement will expire in May of 2023. And with the expiration of that contract, flow control that's governed through the contract will cease. The current contract agreement has been in place for over 20 years and it no longer meets our operational needs. So the county has moved forward with a request for proposal for solid waste maintenance operations, transport, and disposal contract. And that contract is expected to be in place for the next 20-year period of time. So to ensure a stable stream of waste as the basis for a new contract and encourage the most beneficial pricing proposals, the county adopted a flow control ordinance in December of 2020, which designates the county solid waste facilities as the exclusive disposal sites for MSW that's generated in the county, and regulates MSW that's commercially transported from the unincorporated areas of the county. There are some important exemptions that are part of the flow control ordinance that was adopted. It exempts recyclables and construction and demolition waste that meets certain volume thresholds, and those streams can be taken to a permitted center. It also exempts residential self-haul customers from enforcement actions. So flow control is not a new idea, and we are in really good company with surrounding counties in the state of Washington. So Snohomish, King, Pierce, Mason, Lewis, and Grays Harbor all have flow control ordinance in place. And so we have provided the city of Yelm with a draft flow control ordinance that would work in connection with your code, your city code, to adopt, that would be in alignment with the solid waste management plan and flow control upon execution of an ILA with the county. So what is the purpose of flow control? We touched on it a little bit, but it's to maintain efficient, reliable, and affordable solid waste operations and facilities for the residents. It provides for facility and infrastructure capital improvements to address the current and future needs of our growing population. And so, you know, the previous slide really touched on that we're supposed to have 30 to 34% increase in population and waste by 2040. And you saw a table that showed the planned capital improvements over the next 6-year period of time. And the total of that was 24 million. So we need to make sure we have revenues in place to support that growth for our communities. It supplies resources to monitor and maintain the closed landfill in Hawks Prairie so that we are able to comply with regulatory requirements. It aligns with the objectives and implements the goals, provides funding to implement the goals for the county's solid waste management plan, which include community programs and education, outreach, and enforcement responsibilities. And I'll just pause and say that the flow control ordinance was a specific recommendation in the solid waste management plan. And finally, it ensured solid waste that's generated or collected in the county is handled responsibly and in accordance with the values of our community. This shows the 2021 Thurston County solid waste budget and all of the programs and responsibilities that are required for solid waste management in the county. And so you can see it's broken down with contracted operations, obviously, is the significant portion of it, but we have capital facilities and infrastructure improvements, education, outreach, and enforcement. So, you know, $32 million annual budget for solid waste in Thurston County. So in terms of next steps, this outlines sort of where we are and what our ask is. So we are asking for city approval of an intergovernmental agreement with Thurston County for solid waste and hazardous waste planning. And we provided a draft ILA to the city in some materials that were sent out in March. Request for the cities to adopt a flow control ordinance by June 30th of 2021. And like Thurston County, once the participating cities adopt the ILAs, then Thurston County will adopt the solid waste management plan for the years 2021 through 2026. That plan will then go to the Washington State Department of Ecology for final approval. And we are hoping to complete this by July 31st of 2021. So with that, lots of information. I know Wendy and I went through it quickly, but we also had a lot to cover. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and then open it up for questions.
I see Terry first and then Molly.
Thank you, ladies, for the presentation. I have a question that's been bothering me for years, and I'm so glad you're here that you can answer it. Somebody told me that when you put the wrong recycling items in your recycling bin that goes to the curbside, that if the guys look in there and there's obviously a bunch of things that don't qualify to be recycled, that they just throw the whole thing away and therefore it's not really recycling. Is that true?
So I'm going to let Wendy also speak to this, but the answer is it depends on the level of contamination.
Okay.
Right. So if there is an item or, you know, items that can be easily taken out and disposed of, that's one thing. If it is so highly contaminated that that's not worthwhile for them to go through that process, then that would be disposed of. Wendy, can you confirm that for me?
So that's correct. So when they pick up your curbside recycling, it goes into a truck, and that truck goes to a municipal recycling facility, and all of the material is put on a belt system, and things that are contaminants are sorted out at the site. So not your whole load goes to garbage. It would only go to garbage if they did a lid lift, looked in your recycle bin, it's all garbage. You would probably get a little sticker on your bin telling you that you did not recycle correctly. And but no, it goes for recycling, and they sort out the municipal solid waste.
Good to know. Well, I have no stickers, so I must be doing fairly well. So the thing is that our recycling is effective, because other people have said, oh, well, it doesn't go anywhere. Now we can't ship it to China. And so it's not effective at all. And there's no use doing it. But that is not true, right?
That's correct. I mean, the China national sword certainly had a huge impact on the markets and the way that recyclables have been dealt with in the US. But one thing about our commercial operations, they're pretty nimble, and they've learned to, adapt to that. They're developing new markets. They're setting up infrastructure to be able to handle the recyclables. It's been a little bit difficult. That always takes a little bit of time, but there are definitely emerging markets for the recyclables, and they are being recycled.
Good. So they will be able to work around the pandemic.
They have been working around the pandemic. From what I understand, it's changed the waste stream, or this recycling stream itself. They've had a lot of, I'm trying to think, they've had a lot more aluminum cans and glass. I think people are drinking more alcohol at home. I think the nature of cardboard has changed because people are, rather than having large commercial cardboard that's, at a place of business, you're getting a lot of smaller cardboard that's sent to you for packages that are delivered to your home. So, even the pandemic has changed a little bit of the recycling stream that we're seeing. But again, they're pretty resourceful, and they're figuring out, how to manage through that. And then of course, it remains to be seen if those are short-term impacts or if those really are going to change the way that the business is done, over time, just like we're having those same conversations about some of our virtual meetings, right? And teleworking.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much.
Holly?
Hi, guys. So thank you for the presentation. That was really interesting. I did have one quick question. Pardon me. You had projected that the population of Thurston County is going to grow by, I can't remember the number, it was X percentage in 30 years, but that the waste stream would grow by a few more percentage points than that. It was like 33 to 36 or something like that. And I was kind of wondering why the discrepancy there? Like what's going to be the difference, do you think?
Wendy, I'm going to have you ask that, since it was the methodology that you used during the development of the plan.
So municipal solid waste is tied to a waste per capita, and it also depends on the amount that your citizens are recycling. So the more you recycle, the less per capita that is generated. So your tonnage will go up incrementally based on that. So for example, if you are generating more than 1 ton per person per year, then you will see your waste stream increase by a greater percentage than your population base. So that's how it's based. And it's an EPA method that's used, a mass balance based on population.
Any other questions, council? Tracy?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Hey, my question is, in your contracts that we've discussed here, you're limiting folks' ability to, and I'm assuming they're the larger garbage haulers. You're limiting their ability to take their truckloads of debris other than to your facilities, and I'm curious if you can explain why that is.
Well, So again, we're looking at commercial operators that operated in the county. We would like for them, well, we are having the waste that they collect go to our facilities so that we can ensure the revenue associated with the waste that's in our county, generated in our county, so that we can plan for our future growth in the county, so that we can ensure that it's managed responsibly and in accordance with our values. And so we can support all of the programs and regulatory requirements that we have to provide solid waste services in our county. So that's the purpose for flow control, keeping in mind that when I listed all of the different areas around us that also have flow control ordinances in place, they are also restricting the waste that they accept. So they are in their areas also expecting the commercial waste that's generated to be in their counties to go to their counties, but they're not anticipating waste from Thurston County to come down into, you know, Lewis County, for example, or Mason County.
It just seems like kind of a monopoly situation if you know, because if you're not allowed to do your business other than with you guys, then either you play by the rules that you create or you don't play at all. And what I mean is if you decide what your rates are going to be based off of what your, you know, your algorithms or your, you know, your studies or however you're basing your, you know, your formulas, let's say yours differ from Pierce counties or Lewis counties, and the folks who do business in this county want to take their business elsewhere, and vice versa. Let's say Pierce County is trying to gouge their you know, their customers, yet their customers, you know, have the opportunity to go to other places that, you know, I think that's, in my opinion, I believe that's how business works. If you're offering a quality service and a quality, you know, and you know, and not charging an abundance or overcharging, then everybody has to kind of play by the same rules. But if we're literally talking about saying, look, you have to do, if you want to do business here, you have to do business with us or you don't do business here. And I just think that's kind of unfair.
Well,
let me speak to it for a little bit. We have a little bit different system here in Washington State. And so all of the curbside haulers are regulated by the Washington Utilities and Transportation Commission, and it's a franchise system. So each of the haulers have a franchised area that they're allowed to operate in. They are not allowed to operate outside of their area, and they are required to, by legislative authority, they are required to bring their municipal solid waste to the facilities designated in the solid waste management plan in each county. And so it's not the...
Wendy, I'm curious if you can tell me why that, what that, and I'm not holding you to the fire on this one because I know it's not your job to know this, but I'm curious if you can tell me why Washington State decided that this was the best move, because once again, I'm going to hit you with the same argument. It seems like it's monopolies for folks that are in your position.
Yes, and I hear what you're saying. I mean, Washington State is odd. I think there's only one other state in the United States that does it this way. Most of them operate on a competitive basis, and so they compete with each other to pick up your curbside garbage. But we don't have that option in Washington State. It's all controlled by legislative authority and through the Washington Utilities and Transportation Commission. So it's not something that the county's doing. It's above local government's head. So
I thank you very much for your answer. I appreciate the time.
Yep, thank you.
Joe, EJ, anybody? And James isn't with us tonight. I know he would sing your praises, as most council members have learned over the years that when you come onto the council, you usually get the cherry assignment, which is going to Solid Waste Advisory Committee. I certainly did, and I loved it. I learned so much talking trash with all you people. We will look at the documents that you sent over, and this does come before council for an action item soon. So we'll get that signed and answer any more questions. And I know you'd be available to come down and answer more questions if we have them. But that was a great presentation, and The only other thing I'll add is if you're not a frequent visitor to the Waste and Recovery Center up there on Hogan Bay Road, it's worth a drive. Bring your recyclables with you because you can recycle just about anything but a cat at that facility. But take the time to park and enjoy the park, the garden that's there, dog park as well. But that garden up there that's maintained by volunteers, I believe, Karen?
Correct.
It's just a beautiful little respite, and you wouldn't think to find it next to a solid waste facility, but there it is. It's kind of like our Cochran Park, serving two purposes. So thank you again. If I don't see any other questions, we appreciate you and Wendy coming down to talk to us tonight, and we'll be in touch.
Thank you. Thank you very much for the opportunity to present. And also for making sure that there's participation on our Solid Waste Advisory Committee. We really, really appreciate that investment of time. And expertise. All right, very good. Have a good night. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next on our agenda, what is it? Oh, thank you. Yeah, I have too many screens up. There it is. So I spoke with Jeevan earlier, so I'm going to assume that Jeevan is the presenter for this, but I also see a couple of other folks associated with the market. But Jeevan, the floor is yours, sir.
Okay, I got options now.
There you go.
So I think John is also on the call, and I think Heidi as well. And John's probably gonna be better at answering your questions once we get to that point than I am. So that'd be great if he can get unmuted. I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen because I have the same data points I share with the city every year. And then these are all on the website, and we try to keep these up to date in real time as much as possible. So as the year goes by, you can always look at this data as we go. And so you should see 2020 Farmers Market in review.
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, we want to thank the city again for all the support you guys have given us. This review is going to be a little bit different. I'll move you guys so I can seem like I'm looking at you guys. Because of COVID, it was a very unique year for the farmers market. When it was all said and done and we got our numbers in, we actually achieved a 6% growth, and there was actually a lot of reasons for that. It was a very interesting beginning of the year. We obviously couldn't market as much as we wanted to. We had limited vendors that could come out. We weren't allowed to have any children's activities like our POP programs. So we started the year with a lot of extra expenses, and then kind of moved on from there. But because we made the decision to actually start on the day that we said we were going to start, we were able to actually achieve a lot better results than we would have. A lot of markets decided not to open, so meaning that we were pretty much the only market that was opening on time. Big kudos to John for working with the Department of Health and getting our systems in place so that we could open. We were able to attract a lot of vendors who would normally be in Tenino or would normally be in another location that just weren't available to them at all. So that actually helped our numbers quite a bit. So just for some history, what makes our partnership with the city really important to us is that, so before we went into the city in 2016, we were actually forced to shut down the market at our Nisqually Springs location, basically because of lack of funds. Basically the money we were outputting to keep the market going wasn't enough to sustain itself. But one of the things that being in the community center did for us immediately is that, one, it made managing market a whole lot easier because of the bathrooms, because of the space, and because of its location. Easier to market, and a lot of other reasons, just in the form of setup is concerned. The second thing is the ability to have the reduced rent where we'll see when you see the numbers of what we were making. We were always subsidizing before 2016 the market, so we've always lost money. But the last 2 years was the first time the farmers market's been in the black, meaning we actually, it wasn't just all of our dollars coming out of our pocket to do. And before, we were actually a part of the Yelm Food Co-op, and a lot of the membership dollars from the food co-op helped that subsidize the farmers market during that time. So we're really glad with a lot of the work that John's done that we're able actually to run this market sustainably now. And we couldn't do that without the support of the city. We also received a grant from the city during that week 9 dip that we had that was really helpful to make sure that we could get through the rest of the season. One of the things we found out at the tail end of the season was that we might not have had the big highs from the events that we were looking at, but throughout the rest of the season, when normally we would tail off, we had better than average attendance. Some of the things that we had to do was repurpose our pop manager position. So because of the rules from the health department, we needed people counting people at the entrance. So we needed somebody at both entrances. So John being a one-man show wasn't going to be possible. So we repurposed our pop manager for that position. John spent a lot of time and still spends a lot of time proactively working with the health department how we're supposed to be doing it. That was a big learning curve for everybody in the beginning. And I think John did an amazing job with that. I've already talked about the new vendors that we got, which also helped. It was the first time we had a shellfish vendor at our market, which was really popular. And from our perspective, it also was very high ticket items, so it helped the revenue as well. This is just a breakdown of our vendor sales by type. And in the next chart, it really shows why we keep track of this. It's important to be a part of the Washington State Farmers Market Association that you have a certain mix of vendors at your market. And they definitely want that your farmers and processor sellers outsell the rest of your individual categories in order to maintain your it is a guideline, but they really kind of wanted you to hit that. With the grant that we received from the city, we actually ended up with a final profit of $3,912, and that's almost exactly what the POP program cost us in tokens last year. So that was another expense that we didn't have to do. Usually it comes out of our budget where we pay for the $2 in tokens that we give out to the kids, and that's almost exactly the number from last year what we spent in POP, or the year before in POP tokens. What's new for 2021, and I'm sure John will be able to speak more to this, we received very late a grant that we won. It just took a long time for us to get the check, so we weren't able to use it last year, but we do have that check for this year. And so that's $10,000 that we received that we're going to help us with this year quite a bit. We're really excited about the new community garden. We don't know how it'll affect the market this year and what we'll be able to open up and when, but our plan is definitely to integrate the POP program with the community garden so that we can have garden activities for the kids hooked in with the POP program. And we're looking for a community garden manager right now to fill that position. And if that's a planning position for this year to set us up for next year, then that's what it is. If we can get started on it, that'd be great too. We do hear that there are events being planned for this year, which we're pretty excited about, that there might be a barbecue rally. Heard rumors of the Mermaid Festival returning. So different things like that will really help the farmers market this year. And like I said at the beginning, all this data is available on the website under the About section, and we keep the data up from every single year of our financials there. Anything you want to add, John?
I think I'm unmuted now. Everybody hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, I think you pretty much touched on everything that I have written down here. I've been going through my notes as you've been talking. yeah, the market opens up on May 29th. We are very excited for this year. Actually, something I haven't been able to speak with Jeevan or Heidi or the rest of the board with yet is we did get approval today to have the POP program back at the farmers market. So we will have the kids program back starting on May 29th. With that said, we're just going to follow the same guidelines with the COVID safety guidelines of maintaining 6 feet. We'll just I'm developing a kind of an area right now for the kids can meet and still maintain 6 feet and have a line, and we'll have it ready by then. I just started drawing some stuff up, but that's very exciting. It's great to have the kids program back, especially with the community garden now ramping up and us starting to develop that. We'll be able to integrate those both, and it should be a really awesome year with both those programs. As of today, we have 28 vendors signed up. They will not be there on opening day. We will have a few starting the week following or the week after. We do have 4 farmers signed up this year, which is really awesome. We've struggled with that in the past, and actually it's 5 farmers, but 1 farmer just does fruit. So 5 total, 4 veggie farmers. We actually have 2 other farmers market managers from around the state that will be selling at our market this year, which is kind of cool. We'll have the Chehalis Farmers Market Manager, and then we'll have the 6th Ave Farmers Market Manager, both having booths at our market, which is really cool because they're going to be able to help me. And if they see anything that I'm doing, or, you know, hopefully we can learn from each other. So I'm actually looking forward to that. But with that said, I think Jeevan really touched on everything that we're looking forward to. I think the hopefully having the barbecue rally and whatever other events are going to be going on this year, and hopefully they can get their permits and be a part of it, because when we have those mixed days and we're on the street, I really think it helps bring the community up more and lets everybody know what we're doing. So yeah, I think that's all I have. Any questions for me?
Molly?
Yeah, I had a quick question. I know that you guys are currently set up in the community center, and that it's a really valuable location for you because of the location. It's, you know, it's central to Yelm. You've got the future community garden there. You've got the park right there. Is there any possibility that you guys might be finding your own permanent home? I'd like to see, you know, some kind of an indoor market that you can maybe run year round. You know, I think that would be fantastic. I know that the Olympia Farmers Market has, you know, they run most of the year, if not all of the year. But it's very cold, even in the winter time, under those awnings. And I was wondering if you guys have any kind of a plan or, you know, a dream of having your own permanent indoor market.
I definitely think that is or yes to both of those. It is a dream, and hopefully it is a plan one day. I think that with us finally having some positive years, I think that's something that definitely could happen in the future. I've actually spoken with the director of the Washington State Farmers Market Association on becoming a full year-round farmers market. There is a lot to do with that. There are regulations that we have to follow to be considered a farmers market. One big thing is having a farmer. You have to at least have 1 farmer, and that's the minimal during the off season to continue as a farmers market. But it is possible. There is winter produce. You just have to find a farmer that has that. And then the next step is, you know, finding a location that's property or land that we could build something on, and then, you know, having the money to build that, which I think is very doable in the future. I just, at this time, I think we're still at the very beginning stage, but yes, it is definitely a dream of ours for sure. Next question.
John?
Yeah.
Are you planning a grand opening this year, and will you be wearing your carrot costume?
I do have my carrot costume. I do have that. I just went through our farmers market storage unit. That is out. Grand opening, I have nothing planned yet. I do have that on my list here. I was going to talk with you guys in some capacity and talk with the board and see what they would like to do. I know we did something with the mayor the first year. I don't think we did anything, or we did something the first and second year, but I don't think we did anything last year due to COVID. But I think we could definitely figure something out for sure. Just a social distancing, I don't know what you would call it, takeoff.
We want to see you in the carrot costume, John.
I will make sure that I am in the carrot costume on opening day. I will be there.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, John, we've done some ribbon cuttings with the Chamber of Commerce through the years, so we can just modify that. But it would be nice to have sort of an official ringing of the bell or cutting of the ribbon of some kind.
I agree. Totally. I can shoot you and Lynn some emails and we'll get something figured out.
Cool. Hey, John, I did have one question for you about the farmers. With 4 farmers at our small market, do they communicate with each other and sort of plan their planting schedules so that they're not in too much competition, all bringing the same radishes, or is it just a free for all, whatever they grow?
It's definitely a free for all. If we had larger farmers, it would definitely be something to be more concerned about, that had, 5+ acres or whatever, we're actually producing large amounts. Like, let's say, Bill is producing 2 acres of kale and Sarah is producing 2 acres of kale, then yeah, we would definitely be, having an issue there. But right now with our farmers we have, they're great and that we love their products, but they're definitely at a smaller level for now. So it's something I don't really have to worry about. And we did have 2 vendors last year that kind of were in that issue that kind of had similar stuff, and they were both still selling out of the same product. So for now, I don't think it's an issue.
I had another question.
That's a lot of kale, but okay.
Okay.
Terry?
One thing, John, do you know who those people are that opened the little stand on the main highway on 507? And are they part of our market?
So those are old vendors. That is Susie Kyle's daughter, Mari. They were part of our market for many years. They just started a venture on their own. They're just doing their own little farm stand. There was just a little bit of their own stand on the COVID guidelines that they didn't agree with. So we just they went and started their own thing, and we just wish them the best. Yeah, and I hope they're doing well. I actually have not personally spoke with them, but no, they are not a part of the farmers market.
I thought it might be Susie, but I never saw them there. There was a totally different lady, and I thought she said she was from like Spokane or somewhere. So
I really don't know much about that stand at all. So I really couldn't answer like who's running it or anything.
all right, thank you.
Yeah. Any more?
Right, well, thanks to Jeevan and John and Heidi for all the work that you're doing to keep this dream alive. We love having the farmers market, love partnering with you. I was over at the community garden today and actually picked my lunch from the community garden by doing the thinning of the spinach and some of the things that needed to be thinned out. So, I mean, somebody had to do it. Radish greens are very good. So continue the good work, and we'll look forward to seeing you on May 29th.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, now we have several presentation updates from Public Works, and I'm not really sure who's going to do what on the water reclamation facility in Mosman Avenue, but it's your turn there, Public Works.
Well, okay, good evening, Council. Pat Hughes here from over at the Public Services Department. I'm just going to run down a quick bullet list of some of the capital projects that we're working on. I do this from time to time just to kind of keep you updated on what's happening, because a lot is and has been going on, and it's changing, as you know, quickly. So this should be a fairly short presentation, but I just want to give you a little update of what's going on. If you've been out by Cochran Park lately, you probably have noticed a flurry of construction activity out at the park. As you know, we're undergoing phase 1 of our park upgrades. This year, we're upgrading the inflow fountain, excavating out some of the overgrown vegetation in pond number 1. We're reconstructing the pedestrian bridge going into the site, and we are installing new public restrooms at Cochran Park. This is moving along quickly. The project started back on the 26th of April, and as of this point, as of this afternoon, they already have pond number 1 excavated, the foundation excavated, and concrete poured for the foundation for the new restroom. The old bridge has been removed. They're forming foundation for the new bridge, and they're just really moving along quickly out there. So they have a 90-day window to complete this phase of Cochran Park, and it looks to me like they're going to meet or exceed that deadline. So I've been very pleased with the progress out at Cochran Park. Please, Mayor, feel free to interrupt me if you see anybody with any questions. I can take these questions while I'm talking about them. So I'd like to move on next over to Mosman Avenue. There's been some discussion about that. That project will go to construction soon. As you know, Mosman Avenue is extending or rebuilding that street from Railroad all the way over to Solberg, where it will then traverse over a portion of the Tahoma Valley Golf Course and end up teeing into, come on, help me out here, over to the east on the east edge of the golf course. Thank you. I got too many projects going on. Where there's an existing maintenance building there, that's roughly where the new road will be coming out. I'm looking now at starting construction on that early next spring. If I put that project out for bid right now, by the time we got it advertised, bid, under contract, and construction starting, there just would not be enough time between now and the time of winter time to get that complete project started and built and completed. Therefore, we would probably have to undergo a shutdown for maybe 4 or 5 months before I could even pave the project. In the interest of not wanting to interrupt that project and to keep it continuous, it makes sense just to wait and put that project out for bid in the early spring, while bids are actually still competitive that time of year, and start and complete that project next spring rather than this summer. So if that makes sense, that's what we're looking at doing right now. We have our federal funding in place for a good share of that project. I still have a couple of more construction easements to obtain before we can move into the construction phase. We're getting very close to completing the right-of-way phase. And then there's a few other little items that I need to take care of. There's a gas line that needs to be lowered, a fence that needs to be moved, and 2 power poles that PSE needs to relocate. So it's busy behind the scenes, but it looks like the actual construction is most likely going to begin early next spring.
Tracy has a question for you, Pat.
Sure, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Hey, Pat, I'm wondering if you have any concern that maybe, because what you're saying there leads me to be concerned about when you do start after the 4 months of downtime. Do we literally, is there enough time to do the entire project before we hit downtime again, or are we going to find ourselves in the exact boat that you just described?
This is probably about a 3 to 4 month project. But if we don't start this project until, say, this fall, there won't be enough time to complete it. Unfortunately, paving is one of the last parts of the project, and that would put us in a time of year where it's just not favorable for asphalt paving. So we would then have to shut down and then wait and redo the paving next spring. And I really don't want to split that project up. Nobody's going to.
I understand that. I'm just curious, how far from shovel ready are you?
We are shovel ready.
Okay, if we're shovel ready and that project's only going to take 3 months, so we start now, seems like we're within the window right now.
Yes, it would seem that way, but I'm not out of the right-of-way phase yet. I still have, because it's federal funding, there are certain steps that we have to go through to certify the right-of-way before we can move into the construction phase. I have to obtain those last 2 construction easements. We have to finish relocation of the golf course out of their existing maintenance building that's out there before we're even allowed to go to advertisement for bid. And what I'm saying is, even if we were to complete all that, say by end of June, going to advertisement and construction at this stage would push that deadline too far up against the window. And again, another logical reason to wait is that putting something out for bid in July or August, contractors are busy. They're very busy. It's very, very competitive time of the year for bidding, and the bidding climate isn't as favorable. So for those reasons, we're looking at, and again, the biggest reason, Councilmember Wood, is just that we're just not completed with the right-of-way phase yet. We just cannot go into a construction phase with federal funding until we have the right-of-way certified. It's a process that we just have to complete. So I'm with you as a project manager. Let's go for it, get it done. But right now, I just can't move it that quick.
Thanks, Pat.
The 2019 water main project, as you may know, is just about wrapped up. In fact, we have our punch walkthrough meeting tomorrow morning at 9 o'clock. That project, as you know, was installing new water main along Walmart Boulevard, 103rd Avenue, Grove Road, and 2 segments along Canal Road. That project was right on schedule, right on budget, and actually went very well. So that walkthrough is tomorrow morning, and that will complete the 2019 water main project. The new 2021 water main project is currently under design. As you may recall, council approved parametrics to begin the design of that water main project. Most of those upgrades will be in the area in the western part of the downtown area, the intersection of 507 and Mill Road. And then there is a segment of water main going across the Centralia Power Canal on Wilkinson Road, where we will connect our system to a portion of our system in North Yelm, which only has one connection point at this time, and that will loop that system together with 2 connection points. So this will be some nice improvements to the water main. I also want to, as almost really a separate project, but linked to it, is the upgrade of our water system plan. RH2, who is our water consultant, began that endeavor back in 2016 to upgrade our water system plan. But as you may recall, we kind of put it on hold because of the water rights approval. We're now to the point where we are close enough in the water rights acceptance that we can proceed with this water system plan update. Council, you'll have a chance to review that agreement with RH2 to begin that water plan upgrade on the meeting on the 11th. So you'll be getting some more information from Cody Colt and some more background along with the professional services agreement for RH2 to complete that water main water system plan update. So let's see here. Let me back up to a big one. As you know, there's probably a lot of people curious about what's happening over at the water reclamation facility, phase 2. That project continues to roll along in the design phase. We are at the 90% design plan stage right now for the liquid stream portion of the project. And we're about to receive the plans for the 60% plans for the solid stream. That would be for the biosolids and the solids handling portion of the project. Our funding for this project, as you know, is through a low interest loan from the Department of Ecology. We have been approved for the loan. We are on what they are calling the preliminary project list. We will move to the final project list on July 1st. Once the legislature gets done with that approval and the appropriations are complete, I have every reason to believe that this project will just transition into the final approval. At that stage, Ecology then begins to develop agreements with these individual communities, cities, counties, and that process takes several months to develop the agreement. I do not know exactly where we are in priority on that list, but the agreements are developed between July 1st and December 31st, at which time we could then proceed with our construction. I can't incur construction costs until I have that final loan in place. That's the simple of it. Let me see. Also, we're going to be doing a few minor upgrades over at the WRF in preparation for that. Some little pavement projects. Parametrics, our consultant, will be updating our sewer facilities plan in conjunction with this because of the major changes that we're making and are proposing. So it's, again, behind the scenes, a lot of things are going on. Another project downtown, we are working on upgrades to the well house downtown. That's the little buildings that you see below the historic water tower down near City Hall. We're going to be completely renovating the main building of those three, which is where all of our chemical storage is for treating the well. Office space there, a laboratory. The building will be basically the same footprint that you see there now. It's just going to be most of it just rebuilt. It's out of date. As you recall, that came to you for the design here a few months back. RH2 is our design consultant on that. I'm waiting for, we've already reviewed and approved the 30% plans for that. The 60% plans will be coming here shortly. And so we'll be turning those around pretty quick because this project is really kind of on a fast track. We need to get this thing designed, out to bids and built and done. I'd like by the end of this year. Let me see what else. I think probably the last one I wanted to update you on, and because I've had a lot of questions from the public, is what's going to happen with the new dog park. As you know, the city purchased some property across the road from the Public Works facility. That parcel is rapidly becoming a new access road to link our Public Works facility and the water reclamation facility. In addition, we're planning to put a off-leash dog park in there. We're working with our consultant now, Skillings, happens to be the same consultant that's working over at Cochran Park, to lay out that new road and to prepare a rather simple grading plan to get us to the point where we can final the development of that off-leash dog park. At this particular point, we're laying out the road. We've already cleared a lot of the brush that's out there, if you've been by and noticed, and started pushing some dirt around out there. So we're having fun on the bulldozers, but for the most part, we'll be getting down and dirty into a design here that we can put on paper in the next month or so. So that project is also moving along. So questions?
Hey, Pat, I have a question. So about that road. So like, I know that it's for, the future reclamation plant is sort of across the way on NP Road, and the present one is on Roten Road, right? And so this is a road that goes in between them. Why do we need that road? I mean, like, can't you just like drive around?
Well, there's two reasons for this new road. The primary reason is to provide a construction access for all the heavy vehicles that will be going in and out of there. The current driveway that comes off NP Road couldn't handle it. It would destroy that road. It's got a couple of very tight turning radiuses, just not going to work for heavy traffic. It will be gated. This road will be just a gravel road to begin with until the construction is completed, at which time we will go back and complete the paving on it. I don't want to construct a brand new road and have it all torn up. It will also serve as a drive entrance to this dog park. We're looking at putting a security gate beyond where the dog park entrance would be, obviously to keep the public out of the water reclamation facility and off hours time. So does that answer your question? Is that kind of what you're asking?
Yeah, I was just kind of thinking, because people have been asking me, and I wanted to be able to explain what the purpose of the road was. And I was telling them that really is to keep all of those huge construction trucks off of Roten and NP Road, because they'll just tear up those roads. And like you said, there's that crazy little like U-turn that they'd have to do. And so
Yeah.
basically it's to save the existing roads so that we don't have to repair those roads after the construction is done. Is that kind of correct?
It's kind of correct. They'll still be using Roten Road because they have to use Roten to access this new road going from Roten over to the WRF.
Right.
They will not be accessing anything on NP Road, and they will not be going across our existing drive coming in off NP Road. And that's what I want to avoid. So
Okay,
that's the primary reason. But
more or less then, yeah.
Yeah, more or
All
less.
right, all right, thank you.
So those are just some of the major projects I've been working on. I always joke, outside of that, there's not much happening in Yelm. But if there's any questions you have on any of those projects or any others, have at it.
Joe has a question for you, Pat.
Thanks, Mayor. Pat, good presentation as usual. I was wondering about a project that we kind of discussed in the Public Works Committee. I'm wondering if you had any updates on the Coates Road to Crystal Springs connection with the middle school.
Yeah, this is one we'll talk about at Public Works Committee, but it's just in its infancy right now. It's really nothing more than a conceptual idea. So we wanted to kick it around with Public Works Committee before we bring it to probably to the study session after that. But it's a potential realignment of which is a rather poor intersection there at Coates Road, Crystal Springs, and Edwards, if you know, right where the new middle school is going. And the new driveway where the buses will be entering and leaving the middle school is very close to that intersection. I just don't know how that got planned that way. I see a very congested intersection to one that already is. And so we just sat down and did a little daydreaming one day and came up with some ideas of how we might relieve that potential congestion there. And that's all this is. We just want to kick around a few ideas that we had of how to relieve that, maybe reconfigure that intersection to a much more efficient, safer intersection. So we'll take a look at that.
Thanks, Pat. Looking forward to talking more about it in Public Works.
Solberg Road on the backside of the school is almost like an alleyway now. It's a really thin one-way road, so that's not very good either. I don't know if you can widen that road.
Well, Solberg is actually being half reconstructed as part of the middle school project. They're changing the parking configuration there. There's a new curb going in along that. It's really, yeah, you're right. That's changing a lot too. The traffic patterns in general, I anticipate, are going to really be radically different here once that school opens. So we're just being a little proactive and looking at some possible changes.
One more from Joe.
Thank you, Mayor. Pat, kind of following up on what Councilmember Kaminsky was saying. On those curbs, are they, can you drive up on them, or are they, if you drive over them, are they going to hurt your vehicle? I had a lot of residents ask me on that road when I was doorbelling them, talking about the project, bring that question up to me, whether they can, first of all, park on that side, and two, whether they can back up over it, like if they had an RV that they were trying to back up because it's a smaller, narrow road for to turn out of. Are they going to be able to back over that curb? It's an odd question, I know.
Yeah, you're talking about the new curb along the east side of Solberg?
Correct.
Yeah, that's really probably a better question for our planning folks because I'm working on city capital projects. I'm not trying to dodge it, but I just don't know. But I do know that our city standard is a normal 6-inch stand-up type curb and normally are not traversable curbs.
Okay, thank you. I'll follow up with them.
Okay.
All right, very good, Pat. Very thorough update, as always.
If anybody would like to see the what the new restroom is going to look like over at Cochran Park, I can share my screen here. I think I can do that. Yeah. That's kind of what the new restroom is going to look like. And oh, by the way, if you're interested, this restroom is being constructed off-site and will be trucked into Cochran Park on a large bed of a truck, and then a crane will then be used to pick up this entire building and set it on the foundation that they're now constructing. It's going to occur on the 27th of May. It's a Thursday. So if you want to see some exciting construction action.
What time is the bathroom grand opening?
Well, I don't have a grand opening scheduled yet, but that's when they're going to be hoisting this entire building. And what you see is what it looks like today. It is done, complete with interior fixtures, hand dryers, drinking. It's done. It just will be then hoisted up in one large piece and set on its foundation. So
May
Simmer
27th.
down now. Simmer down, Pat.
yeah,
And
I want-
dryers and everything.
Let me know what time I want to come.
9 o'clock.
Oh, 9
Yeah,
a.m.
can you send us an email reminder?
No.
That would be, oh, I want to see that huge crane. That's
Yeah.
so cool.
Yeah, we've been meeting out there the last 2 days to try to figure out where the crane is going to sit, where the truck is going to sit in relation to the foundation, because as you know, the farther you reach out with a crane, the more dangerous it becomes. So we're trying to keep the pick radius, as they call it, as close as we can to the restroom foundation. So we've been meeting with the crane contractor out there the last couple of days to figure out their access and how they're going to stage this. So kind of fun. So
Well, it's just great that Yelm is still the kind of town where we can all get excited about putting a new restroom in, watching a big crane at work. I love it.
yeah, but Cody is so excited because Cody's thrilled with the fact that the toilets are going to use reclaimed water. This is
Nice.
Mhm.
Kind of, yeah, the circle of life there. That's
Of course
interesting.
he is.
Well, Pat, are you going to follow up now with the water main latecomers agreement?
Yes, if you're ready, I can move into that item.
All right.
Okay, so this is a result of a project that I just spoke about a minute ago, which is our 2019 water main project. As you know, I'm going to go ahead and see if I can share this as well. You have this, I believe, in your packet. Did I share the right screen? Are you looking at a map now?
We're looking at a pretty reservoir someplace.
Yeah, this is the map. Okay, so what you have here is a map of the water main that we just finished installing along Walmart Boulevard and 103rd Avenue.
No,
That's not what we're
huge
looking
water.
at.
This is like a fjord in Norway.
We're looking at a reservoir,
Their desktop,
that's a big, it's
desktop X.
a
See,
big
I'm-
water main.
I'm kind of like. whoever-
EJ says it's a fjord.
That's what's the fjord in New Zealand.
In Norway.
It's fjordic.
Is that where it's at? Pat, is it a Norwegian fjord?
There you go.
There you go.
There you go.
All right, sorry about that. I'm kind of like the person earlier that had too many screens open.
Curious to know where it's at now.
Yeah, it's in Norway.
Yeah,
Pause and find this out.
there you go. Yeah, actually,
Pause.
Go ahead, Pat.
that picture was taken up here at Lake Diablo, up here in the North Cascades. I took that picture. So. The water main project that we just finished, a portion of that runs along Walmart Boulevard and 103rd Avenue. What I have for you tonight is just a question. Let me pose the question and I'll fill you in with the details. The question is, would you like to do a latecomer agreement for some of the parcels along that water main? Now, here's a little bit of background for you on that. Some of these parcels, and I colored them in green on this particular map, are potential developable parcels. Once these parcels, or when they develop, these parcels would have been required to bring in water main to serve those parcels. And we are upgrading this water main now for many purposes, one of which is to complete a more robust fire flow around that area. It would be also to connect to our new southeast reservoir that we're planning to build. We're also upsizing some outdated asbestos cement water mains and some small water mains. But the main question I have for you is, since these people and these parcels would have been required to pay to bring a water main in along here, do we want to set up a latecomer agreement to reimburse the city for their capital costs in putting this water main in now? I've done some very rough calculations of what this might mean as far as an assessment on these parcels. I think I got it on this same screen. If you can even see it, I know the print is very small, but the bottom line is about 39% of this project lies in the frontage of these parcels. And it would end up being a assessment to each one of these parcels that averages somewhere in the neighborhood of, I don't know, maybe $40,000. They vary considerably because of the size of the parcels and the amount of frontage. The advantage to doing this, obviously, would be to reimburse the city for about $514,000 of its cost. The downside of it would be is that it would, of course, put an assessment on the parcel that would be due when that parcel develops. And we've not done many of these in Yelm. We have done some LIDs, as you know, and this works very similar to the way an LID would work. But the main difference is here is that this would be reimbursing the city for its upfront capital costs. So all I'm doing tonight is I just like to throw this out there to see what the warm and fuzzy, if you will, to the council about setting this up. If it's something that you think that you would like to proceed with, I will then go ahead and do a draft ordinance, recalculate some more accurate numbers as the project nears completion. I get some more numbers, I get some better property dimensions and frontages. These are just estimates. These are just to give you an idea of what this would entail. So if it sounds like something you'd be interested in doing, I could proceed with it. I just have to ask the question as a project manager to see where council might want to go with this.
So if we never do this, then what, the city never gets reimbursed at all? Or do we just do it at a later time?
Probably would not be prudent to do it at a later time. Now would be the time to do it. We would set this up now.
Mm-hmm.
And then there will be an interest rate attached to it. It expires after a period of, I believe, 20 years. If those parcels do not develop within that particular time, then we would not, it would expire. The interest rate attached to it, the procedure in which it's done and how it's set is completely dictated by the Washington Code. So I don't, you know, it's very regulated. So I don't have a lot of choices in how it's done. If you have specific question of how such agreements are administered, I do have watching offline here tonight, Tammy Merriman from Community Development, which is actually now part of my team, is available if you've got any specific questions about how it's administered. She's done many agreements similar to this in the past.
Yeah, I have a question, Pat.
Molly,
So I don't know.
If I could be the moderator here, Tracy had his hand up first, and then we'll go to Molly's question, please.
Actually, if I may, JW, Molly had her hand up, but you just missed her. She was actually before me. So
All right, go ahead, Molly.
All right, thanks, Tracy. My question is, so if we implement this latecomers agreement and these people are indebted to the city, essentially, what are the chances that we're going to face the same fiasco that we are now with the LID, the Killian Road LID, where, you know, all of a sudden we're saddled with this liability? If they don't pay, if all of a sudden they go bankrupt, if they transfer the property, I mean, if they transfer the property, who's now responsible for it? I mean, there's a lot of questions that I don't even want to, I mean, before we even start looking at this, we need to get some major questions answered. So, you know.
Yes, and we would go into that more into detail as we developed the ordinance, the agreement, and the assessment role. But this works a little differently in that we've already incurred the liability. We've already paid for the water main. This would be just set up so that we could be reimbursed by these parcels at which time they develop. And so the liability to the city has already been incurred, I guess, if you will. We've already spent, you know, $1.3 million on putting this water main in. And again, about 39% of it lies within this particular area that we could potentially be reimbursed for. So there wouldn't be any issue with incurring land or encumbering land. These would be only triggered at the time that that parcel is developed. They would then have that assessment that they would need to pay as part of the development. So.
Okay, so sorry, one last question. So say, for example, I noticed that the Littletons were on there, George Littleton. So say George Littleton, we agree to this now while he owns the property, and then George Littleton sells the property in 10 years. It hasn't been developed at all. So is the new owner then responsible for that same debt, for example? Okay.
It goes with the deed. It's an assessment against that particular property, not necessarily the particular owner. For example, across the road there, the Dennis Daly property, that's currently under, well, I don't know if it's under contract yet, but that's where the new high density apartments are proposed just north of Walmart. So yes, that eventual owner would therefore be liable for paying that assessment upon development. In that particular one, by the way, we're working with that developer because that's the parcel we want to put our Southeast Reservoir on. So, but he's asking me, are we going to put an assessment against the property for the water main? I said, well, if we didn't, you would have had to pay to put the water main in anyway. But I don't know. That's up to council. It's something you can consider. I'm just throwing it out there tonight as a kind of a first introduction, if you will, to see if it sounds like something council might be interested in moving forward with. We have not done many of them.
We've got a question from Tracy, then Joe DePino, then Terry.
J-Dub, can you promote Tammy really quick as well?
Yeah.
She might be able to help answer some of these.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple of questions and just some clarification. Why did we put the new water main in? Just real quick, and it's obviously I know the answer to the question.
Yeah. Again, there was a couple of reasons. One is it provides a loop to a system where we did not have a connection, as you could see on the map. It improves the fire flow for that area, which we had some kind of low pressures. Third, we're looking at putting in our new Southeast Reservoir there, and this would provide a good connection for that. And fourth, as part of our water system plan, we're going through and systematically upgrading some undersized and asbestos cement water mains and replacing those as we go. So this particular project kind of addressed parts of all four of those reasons.
No, all of which I agree with you on. I mean, all of which were things that we talked about and we addressed. But these all these folks that own these properties along here, they weren't part of our conversation on this. And also, it seems like, correct me if I'm wrong, but when this, as you mentioned, one of the properties is looking at bringing in some apartments, at which point they develop that, we're gonna require a fee from them to hook into our system.
That's a connection fee. That's different than
nevertheless, it's a connection fee. My point is what you're proposing that we think about here is that we attach a debt to these people's property for something that we were going to do anyway. We did it because it needed to be done. You just cited many clear reasons why we needed to do this. And it sounds like what we're trying to do is look for a reason to, kind of pull a Joey here. And I don't mean DePinto, I mean Joey from Friends, and, push somebody into our refrigerator and say, hey, whoa, you broke my fridge. You got to pay for it.
No, yeah, I totally see where you're coming from. It might have that appearance that we decided we wanted to do this and now we want you to pay us back for it.
Exactly.
It's no, a large portion of this, as I described, is growth. This is growth for growth. In other words, the water main's primary purpose is to serve this area. As you can anticipate, this is prime for commercial development. When that bypass, when the 510 alt bypass comes through, and in that case, we wanted to get ahead of the curve. I also should probably throw in a fifth reason why we put it in here is that when that bypass comes through, we're not going to be able to get this main in there. We want to get this water main in before the bypass comes through because I can't cut into a brand new state highway.
Hey,
Correct.
Pat, can you put the map back on real quick?
Mhm. If I can do it right.
Correct. And once again, that's why, we are charging some fees for the develop, when people who develop these properties and join into our system, we charge them a fee. And that's where the statement you made there, growth pays for growth.
Mhm.
These people have been here long before. Well, I can't speak for how long they've been here, but what I do know is they've been here long enough to get on this map from 2019. If buying this piece of property at the time didn't have water access, but now does, seems to me like a pretty good property purchase for these folks at the time. Pretty good anticipation, whatever the case may be. It just doesn't seem to me that it's fair to penalize them. And then that's what I see it as. This is kind of a penalty. Hey, look, we put this water main in, it's great for you. And you had no say in it or whatsoever, but we're going to attach this to your property, and it just, like I said, I understand what you're saying, growth for growth, but I think that applies to hooking into our system and being a part of it.
Okay, yeah, that's the debate I'd like you folks to have. I'm presenting this to you as a possibility. Again, this would not trigger unless the property were developed for commercial development.
Let's move to Councilmember DePino and then Kaminsky. That was the order. Then I saw Molly's hand go up again too.
Thank you, Mayor. Pat, I think I'm gonna lean towards Councilmember Wood and his comments. I kind of agree. I think it's kind of penalizes, and not necessarily residential, like you said, but the commercial folks coming in. And more so, I think it'll prevent smaller businesses to come in when, a lot of folks in Yelm are really wanting to help small businesses and encourage some of those rather than see some of the bigger stores. And, where we're at on that argument, that's a different story, but I think it would encourage, it would discourage those smaller businesses. And, for a big company, that's not $50,000 or $40,000. That might not be, that much for a Walmart or a big corporation or anything, but that'd be a huge amount for a single owner, a small family owned business. Granted, I don't know if they're going to develop that whole parcel or what property or whatnot, but I would tend to agree with everyone. My question though is, are we doing this out of the current budget? Are we funding this through a current budget?
Yeah, it's our water capital improvement fund.
Well, the ratepayers are already paying for it currently. We have more things today than we did 10 years ago and 20 years and 30 years ago. I think, we shouldn't penalize those coming in afterwards. They should enjoy the fruits of our labor and the ratepayers that are currently here right now and making this town great as it is now. And yeah, I don't see how it would help future businesses coming into Yelm if they had to add on that extra cost. So I'd probably be against it myself.
Okay, well, again, it's primarily for the benefit of the people along those frontages. The taxpayers as a whole are paying for this, but it only really benefits the parcels for the most part that are along those frontages. So yes, I have to agree. There's pluses to this and minuses, and that's certainly a view that many take. And so again, I'm throwing this out to you for discussion.
Appreciate the ideas though.
Terry, go ahead.
Correct me if I'm wrong, and Tammy can answer this question. If the city has utilities at a certain place and somebody wants to develop it, are they not required to hook into city utilities?
Yes, they are.
Therefore, it's kind of a moot point.
No, because
It's
there was
not
no water main.
penalizing It's not penalizing the current owner, it's creating value for them when they sell and there are city utilities at their commercial frontage. That's the way I look at it.
Molly?
So just to take the other side here for a minute, say I'm Joe Schmo ratepayer here in Yelm. I find out that all of a sudden I'm paying for this huge water main to go in, and it's going to benefit all these people that can potentially develop their property now that they couldn't before, and they're getting a free ride.
Yes.
You know, I mean, that's what a lot of people in Yelm are going to say. They're going to say, well, wait, my taxpayers' dollars, my ratepayer dollars don't pay for these guys. They pay for me. And, you know, while the logic is not necessarily there or applicable or even correct, that's what a lot of people are going to say. They're going to say, I didn't pay for these guys to, you know, eventually, you know, make a lot of money on my back. I can see it both ways. I can see both Tracy and Joe's opinion, and I can see this, you know, this other opinion that says the current ratepayers are going to say, no way, we don't want to have to pay for somebody else to benefit 20 years from now. That's not fair. But, you know, it is what it is. My actual question was to Pat. I cannot remember for the life of me where the urban growth boundary area is. Is it Canal Road, so that those people would all eventually be within city limits anyway?
Yeah, it's outside. The yellow line on this map is the city limits.
It's current city limits, okay?
Yeah, and I don't remember exactly where the urban growth limit is, but it's out well outside of this area. It's probably out.
Okay, so they will be within city limits someday.
Well, of course they will be someday if it's in the urban growth limit, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they wouldn't have to pay for any water main coming in there.
No, that wasn't my question. I was thinking about voters.
Okay,
Yeah, it wasn't, it was just a question about boundaries, that's all.
Yeah, I could have put that to boundary on here as well, but
No, that's okay.
yeah,
That's okay. It was just
you can see
curious.
some of these properties are in the city, some of them aren't. But all of them would be served by the water main that we.
And all of them are within the urban growth area.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Tracy?
Just wanted to reiterate, we did not develop this for the purpose of the benefit of these folks. And that's why I asked and was given a pretty good list of reasons why we extended this water line and did what we did here as a beneficial effect of what we did for the benefit of the entire community. These people found themselves landed in a good spot. That's you know, I just don't, once again, I just want to be clear, in my view, there's really no reason to penalize them for owning property where the city decided.
So Pat, what I think I'm picking up here pretty clearly is that the folks on the council need a little bit more or a lot more information about what this would look like. I would recommend that you take this back to your drawing board and show us at a future study session a little bit more detail. And the council can then go into this argument a little bit more about who pays for what when, because as has been pointed out, the present taxpayers and ratepayers have paid for this water line. The future developers of those green lots would have to bring their own water in if this were not happening. So there's some good argument to be had on both sides of this, but I think we all need more information to digest before the council makes a decision on this latecomers agreement.
Well, that's understood, and that's all I wanted to do tonight is introduce this to you as an option. If I got the feeling that this was something that like, no way do we want to encumber these parcels or these potential developers with this, that would be the end of it. If it's something you want to explore a little further, I'd be happy to do that. But I just wanted to kind of get your thoughts and feelings on that before we dove into some details. I would be happy to do that.
Great. Thanks, Pat. Awesome stuff tonight.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for listening tonight on both my presentations.
And Tammy, thanks for sticking around to be here for us if we needed you.
Tammy, I hope I did okay.
Well, I was waiting, but everybody answered or asked the right questions and didn't feel I needed to jump in.
Right. Well, then, council, this takes us to our next agenda item, which you'll see is the council needs to give some direction on what you want to do now. You have the applications from 10 citizens who would like to take Pat Stillwell's spot on the council. It's great to have that many to choose from. Council needs to have, make a decision on what you want to do next. So here's a great time for you to discuss that and give me some direction on how I can help you with that process. Terry?
Well, would we follow the previous protocol and have these individuals come before the council and speak to us in person? Would we do that normally?
That's what you did last time, sure.
So we would follow that procedure.
This is what I'm asking you tonight. I'm not going to make this decision for you. This is the council's decision on how you want to replace Tad. So I'd like to know what you'd like to do with the applications now in the process.
Well, I like that protocol. I like to see people face to face and have them speak to us. I would like that.
Okay. Anybody else? Molly?
Yeah, I agree with Terry. I mean, and I'd like to do that before we make a decision. So for example, if we have, with 10 applicants, we can't obviously do all 10 in one meeting. I'd like to see maybe like 5 and 5 or 3, 3 and 4 at different meetings. And we have a long time. We don't have to rush into this. But I would like to be able to talk to these people and ask them how they feel and what their goals are. And we got their applications, but there's not it's hard to read a person through just an application. So I would like to propose that we do these in-person interviews well before the actual decision is made, so that we could interview these people and then sit down and make a decision and take a vote whenever it is, maybe in June. So, we've got June, we've got July, whatever. I think we have 90 days from the day that Tad quit, right?
That's right.
Okay, so his last day was on March 31st, right? Or March 30th, something like that. So we still have April's gone. We've got the rest of May, and then we've got the rest of June. So we've got some time. I don't want to rush into this, so I would like to suggest that we do these in-person interviews in blocks before we make a decision.
Thank you, Mayor. I'd like to see us have those interviews. I agree with both Councilmember Carmody and Kaminsky. I think it is important to have those interviews. And I don't care personally whether it's through Zoom or whether it's in person. As long as we get a hear from them, I'm happy. I do believe if history repeats itself, I don't believe that everyone will speak. So I do think that we could get through all of them one day. I would like to see it next week, actually, on the 11th, and have it 3 to 5 minutes on each person. Honestly, I really doubt that every single person would talk, but if we spent like half an hour or so, 3 minutes each for 10 people, I think that would be sufficient for questions and for answers. They did give a lot of information in a lot of those in the packets regarding different questions, whether why they're intending to run and all that. Have those interviews on the 11th where we can ask questions. And then on the 25th, it'll give us 2 additional weeks to discuss, to mull it over. And then on the 25th, I think we could come to a decision on who could be our next council member that would replace Tad on it. I think that timeline isn't too aggressive. We've already, this is probably one of the longer times that we've taken since council members resigned already. I think last time it was about a month or so before we made that decision. So I see, I hear that, you know, we don't have to rush on this, and I don't think we are, but I think also out of respect to those people who have applied, it would be prudent to let them go ahead and get themselves out there and in front of us, and then to have that decision made is in a timely manner, which I think 2 weeks would be. My other comment on that would be that excuse me, I lost my train of thought there. But yeah, on the 25th, I think it would be fine to go ahead and vote on it. I don't think we have to take a huge amount of time on it. Yeah, I can't think of my last comment, but that's it for now.
Council, I'll give you some idea of time. I agree with Joe that about 5 minutes per applicant would be about what we spent last time in talking to these candidates, give them an opportunity to, a meet and greet kind of thing. So but that would add up to 50 minutes to your meeting. The 11th is already chock-a-block full of agenda items and would make for a very long meeting. However, it's probably best to interview all the candidates at the same meeting, so you have the same council members present to ask and hear the answers to those questions. So a suggestion might be, you could also hold a special meeting on the 18th for the sole purpose of inviting those candidates in for an interview. So a long night on the 11th or a special meeting on the 18th for the interviews. And then just go with Councilmember DePino's suggestion of putting it to a vote on the 18th. Molly?
I'd like to suggest, I actually like the idea of having a special meeting on the 18th and then letting us mull it over and then take the vote on the following official meeting. So the special meeting would be more of a study session.
Yes.
With no official vote.
If that's the way you'd like it, sure.
Yeah.
And I would love it if we could do it live, because I actually think it makes a big difference.
Well, you'll have the same parameters in place on the 18th, very likely, that you have today. And so you're welcome to come into council chambers if you'll follow the protocols, wearing masks and staying 6 foot distant. Or the applicants could come in by Zoom, just like we're doing it now.
Do the applicants, if they're giving a speech, have to wear their mask?
If they're in the council chamber, they will wear their mask per the current mandate from the state health department.
Okay.
If they'd like to Zoom in, they could, of course, take their mask off.
Okay. I'm just asking because I can't see from here what people are doing. That's why I'm asking.
So the direction would be, are you interested in having this done on the 11th, or would you prefer to go to the 18th for a special meeting?
18th. How packed is the 11th? When you say?
We have probably 2 hours worth of stuff on the 11th already.
Yeah, I'm fine with the 18th and then vote on the 25th.
Yeah. Me too. I'm getting consensus. That's what we do here at study sessions. We don't vote on things, we get consensus.
Tracy?
I see some nods of heads. Everybody want to check your calendar and see if the 18th is available to you?
DW, who are we kidding? We always have Tuesdays.
Yeah.
I just write off Tuesday afternoons.
Tracy?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I apologize. My computer quit on me, so I completely missed that discussion. What are we trying to decide on here for Tuesday, if you don't mind?
So there's some consensus from the other council members present tonight, Tracy, that holding a special meeting on the 18th for the sole purpose of interviewing the 10 candidates for the open council position, with then discussion and a vote to be taken on the 25th. And now we can't hear you.
I'm sorry, is the 18th, is that the third Tuesday of the month?
Yes, it is.
Was there discussion about having these interviews at our next meeting?
Yes, so the issue, you can have it either way. The issue is that the agenda on the 11th, and I don't have it up in front of me, but we probably have at least 2 hours of work for the council on the 11th. And so you can add another hour to your meeting to interview 10 candidates for 5 minutes apiece. But the council present here thought adding another meeting on the 18th would be,
That's potentially an hour. I mean, we can be done a lot less too, depending on answers and questions.
that's a rough estimate of time.
Well, you know, I'm planning, I've got to go to Chicago and I'm not really available. That's right, literally before I'm walking out the door to,
Does it have to be on a Tuesday? Can it be like Friday afternoon or something?
It'd be any day that the council would like.
I can't do that Friday.
I can't do the Friday before the 18th. I can't either.
That's the
I won't
14th.
be on my Tuesdays. Those
Yeah.
are always my open days.
Yeah, I'm open on
But
Tuesday. the
Wednesday.
18th.
hey, JW, is there anything on our next council meeting agenda that we can move down to perhaps another agenda?
We
In that
spend a
2-hour
lot-
marathon?
Every Tuesday morning, the management team goes through our agendas coming up. We spend a lot of time doing that, and we've already been bumping things off of the 11th to the 25th and into June. And so, and Tracy, think of this though, the interviews would be held on the 18th, but there wouldn't be a vote until the 25th, and you'd be back for that. You could watch the interviews if, you know, on a recorded. You could watch the recording later, or you could even stream in from Chicago. I don't know if that's something you'd really want to do, but
So the first study session in June, would that be too late, you guys? Or is there anything on that agenda?
you have until the end of June to make your appointment. So
Right.
you could do that in June as well.
When is filing for
Week of the 18th.
The week of the 18th.
of May
Hey, yeah,
is when it closes?
yes.
On that
Okay,
Friday.
so if one of our potential, well, and you want to you want to make this decision on the 18th. So if one of our potential candidates is interested in,
No.
Tracy, the interviews would be held on the 18th. The decision would be made on the 25th.
okay, and filing closes on the 18th, is that what you're saying?
21st.
Filing closes May 21st.
Okay, so what you're saying is one of our potential candidates could potentially spend the money and file for the position to find out that they've been appointed to a position.
Which would end in November anyway.
They still have to run for it.
So they would still have to run for the position to be elected in November. It doesn't matter on their filing status. If they want to file for the election, they'd have to do it anyway.
I understand what you're saying. Thanks.
What about this Friday?
No. Way too soon to let anybody know and get them prepared for that. So
I'm totally fine. I'm fine with either the 18th as a special meeting and then deciding on the 25th, or bumping it out to June study session and then deciding at the next council meeting. Either way works for me. And honestly, I like the idea of waiting to interview until after the filing session is done, because that way we know that the person who has, we know that the interviewees, whether or not they're interested in continuing on for the future session, to potentially be elected, or if they really just want to learn the ropes and fill in to be, help meet their civic duty, or help out as a citizen. I know that people are interested in filing, or who have filed as for this position, who say, look, I don't want to run for city council. I just want to help out in the meantime. And I think that that's a completely 100% valid opinion to have. In which case, I think it would be almost behoove us to wait to have a discussion and interview period until after the filing period is over. That way we know who wants to just sit in for 6 months and then who is in it for the long run.
So that would be June 1st would work. June
Yeah.
1st.
Tracy,
Correct me if I'm wrong, but when you file for a seat on the city council, don't we file for a specific position?
Yes, you do.
So we have, I don't see how that's going to work out if we wait till after filing's closed. Whoever wins let's say everybody files for the same position that's, that's appointed, because I mean, I just think that it creates a scenario where they don't know what position to file for. If you file for a position and then let's say somebody files against me, but then they're appointed to the position. So then they've spent their
That's the
money to
way
file.
politics works, Tracy.
Well, I understand. I'm just trying to be fair. I mean, I understand politics. Believe me, I don't need a lesson here. But I'm not interested in us playing a big game of politics here either. I'm interested in getting the job done and moving forward, not stalling it out until November. I just want to get it done. We got a job to do, and I don't think there's any reason to stall it out. If these people are interested, I think that they can show up at the next meeting and give us the interview. You telling me that we're not prepared for a 3-hour, 4-hour, however many hour meeting? I mean, good Lord, people, how many long-winded meetings have we sat through in the last several years?
Councilmember DePiero.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm fine with doing it on the 11th. That's fine. If we want to do the interviews on the 11th, have a long meeting, I'm totally fine with that. I've been in long meetings before, happy to do that again. But either way, I think the vote should happen on the 25th, and for a couple of reasons. One, at that point, we will know who's filed and who hasn't filed for that position or other positions. Filing will be closed by that time, so we will know if they intend to be I guess you want to call it a placeholder for that the rest of the year, or if they want to continue on that position, or if they want to run for a different seat. I don't think it matters too much if they're going to be in that position or a different seat. And that's honestly, that's up to that own individual candidate. And we'll know by the end of that, week. So by the time we vote on this, if we do vote on the 25th, whether we hold interviews next week on the 11th or the following week on the 18th, we're going to know after that, before we vote, who's going to be running for which position. Well, we know those 10 members or those 10 applicants, who's going to be running, who's not going to be running. We'll have all that information. I'm sure some of those candidates will be running for other positions as well. And yeah, I'm good with either the 11th or the 18th and voting on the 25th.
I'll jump back in to say, Kathy Lindemeyer sent me over our agenda for me. And we did move some things around off the 11th just this morning. And so it looks like the 11th would be very doable for those interviews without putting us into midnight. We'd probably have about an hour's worth of work on the 11th now, not 2 hours. So you could add your interviews to the 11th, make your decision on the 25th without having to have a special meeting.
Okay.
Tracy be home.
That's mighty fine.
Okay, we have placeholders for all of these, but the consensus after this is, I believe what I'm hearing is we can put this on the agenda for the 11th. We can send the notice out to the applicants that they're invited to come. We'll do a randomized listing of the order in which they would go. Council can be considering what they would want to ask, but to be fair, you should probably ask the same question of each candidate. But you're not held to those rules. You could just ask the candidate for why they want to do this and ask them a couple of follow-up questions. That's fine. Try to get it done in about 5 minutes per, add about 50 minutes to your meeting. Have that week to consider. And then on the 2 weeks to consider, and then on the 25th, you would be asked, I'd put that on as an action item for the council to make the appointment to that open position. Does that sound about right, Joe?
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, that sounds good to me. I like that timeline. I like that setup. The only other question now I think that we have to ask is how we're going to vote on this, how we're going to choose. There's been a lot of talk about ranked choice. There's, of course, in the past where we've just voted straight up for we motion who should do it, and they get the vote or they don't. And it's potentially broken by the mayor if it's a 3-3 tie. I would like to see us do kind of a combination of that where we start off doing 3 rounds. First round, we choose our top 3. Second round, we and those 3 that move up, the highest vote getters, they will move on to second round. Out of those, we vote for 3, or excuse me, we vote for 1. The top 2 move up to the next round, and then of those top 2, we make a selection. And At that point, it could, come down to a tie, but if that's what happens, it went through that process, it went through a lot of votes to get there. I think it would be fair that way.
Well, you all have some time to think about that. And again, don't necessarily want to make a decision on that tonight, as we're in a study session, but sometime between now and the 25th, without holding a rolling meeting by email, perhaps you should think and discuss this a little bit to decide what format what tool you'd like to use to make your decision on the 25th. Molly?
Yeah, so I just want to answer a couple of the things that are popping up on the Q&A. One, an anonymous attendee says that a conflict of interest should be considered when council members are voting after finding out who's running against whom. That's for council and the mayor position. I definitely agree. I think a conflict of interest is really important to address in any one of these positions, whether they're for council or mayor. And then the second one is by Jelaine McAtee. If one individual runs for mayor, which city councils will be allowed to vote? And I think the answer to that question is nobody on city council votes for mayor. If one individual runs for mayor, it's up to the people to vote for that person or not vote for that person. Do I have everybody's kind of agreement on that?
I think they're asking what would happen for the appointment process. I mean, I don't see the comments, but I'm guessing they're talking about if someone on council ran for mayor and won, who would fill that seat? And that seat would be next year. Yeah, that would be next year, and that would be an appointment process similar to this one.
Got it.
If I'm following the questions right.
That's not what I got from the
I
question,
don't see
but
the question in front of me, so I don't know.
So I believe I understand this, and I'll just sum it up this way, is that this is going to be a very interesting election year in Yelm, because you have 4 council positions that need an election process to settle them all out. If somebody is appointed to the council position now, whomever is elected to that position in November would take their seat immediately. The other council positions would take their seats January 1st.
Not me. I would be.
And actually, EJ's position is the same situation. The mayor, who is not running for re-election, and so whomever applies for that, if it's a seated council member or if it's a citizen, they would take over January 1st for the mayor's position. If that were to vacate a city council position, you would go through the same process then of appointing somebody to that position at that time. So there's some variability here that's going to have to, those bridges are going to have to be crossed at the time. But it shouldn't deter anybody from applying for whatever position they feel they're best suited for in this city government. So let's go with this. We will put it on the agenda for the interviews for the 11th, and messages will go out to the applicants to attend that meeting to be interviewed. Then we will agenda the 25th for an action item by council. And during that action item, you can make your final decision on how you want to do the vote and then take your vote. Mind you, even though it's sort of odd to do this, at the point of when you have it as an action item on the 25th to make the appointment, really it only takes one council member making a motion to appoint applicant A, B, or C to that position, gaining a second, and then there would be discussion and a vote. The majority would rule at that point.
Mayor, I hate to interrupt, but that really depends on how we decide what we're gonna do. If we decide to do the top 3 voting like Joe suggested, or ranked choice voting or whatever. I mean, I understand what you're saying, but if we all decide as a council to proceed otherwise, then that wouldn't be the case.
Well, as you remember, at the last appointment, there was a request by a council member, a motion made to do ranked choice voting. It gained a second, but then ended in a tie, and I didn't break the tie for that, and we moved on to a different mean of appointment. So you're right, at the action item on the 25th, the first action will have to be the council deciding what voting technique they're going to use. Once that decision is made, a motion can be made to make an appointment. Tracy, your hand's still up.
Thank you. I want to back up a little bit here. Once again, I appreciate Councilmember DePinto's understanding that we need to get this on track and moving forward. But we are still faced, if we're talking about doing a vote on the 25th, we're still faced with, that leads to all kinds of confusion for these folks that are attempting to be appointed to the council. And what I mean is if this wasn't the situation, if we didn't have a position that they had thrown their hat in the ring to be appointed for, it'd be really simple for them to, run for an open position, run for whatever position is up for election this year. But being that isn't the case, I just think it's important to get this accomplished prior to anybody spending their money to run for a position. Say somebody runs for, gets appointed to position number 3. Yet they don't know that they're going to get that position, and maybe they have something against myself and with the job I'm doing, and maybe they want to run against me. But they're going to throw their hat in the ring for position number 4 because that's a brand new person, perhaps, maybe they're thinking, or whatever the case may be. It just seems doesn't hold a lot of logic for me that we would go that route.
Well, to answer your question, Councilmember Wood, the only choice you'd have there is to have the appointment made before the filing week, which would be a week from now at the 11th for your regular council meeting. So you could have your discussions, you could have your vote on how you make the decision, and you could have the motion and the decision made all on one night if that's what you're aiming toward.
Well, I don't think that's necessary actually, but as we discussed previously, what day or when we have a special meeting is completely up to our discretion. So it seems like we could have our council meeting regularly on the 11th and have a special meeting on the 12th.
I can't be there.
I can't
Or
be
the
there.
13th or the 14th, or
I'm gone the rest of that week.
I'm already hearing council members say that they're not available for those dates.
Nope. Thanks, Mayor. I get where you're coming from, Councilmember Wood. But honestly, we've had over a month now to talk about this. If this was like a huge concern for everybody, it should have been brought up a long time ago so we could have adjusted our timeline accordingly to it. At this point, I mean, the timing is just how it is. I mean, filing week is in 2 weeks. There's only so much we can do within that timeline. So I mean, if we want to do the vote on everything on the 11th and have a super long meeting, if that's what council wants to do, I'm fine with that. But other than that, I think the timeline that we were talking about with the 11th to have the interviews and the 25th to take the vote is the most appropriate.
Councilmember Curry.
Didn't we have this discussion that several council members thought it was an unfair advantage to the election process for us to appoint someone, and it gave them a better advantage possibly to run in an election? Did we not have that discussion?
Yes, we did.
Okay.
I think it's a valid point.
I think it's totally relevant.
If anything, I think it gives us, I don't want to speak for everybody, but for myself, I almost would want to pick someone that doesn't file, someone that would be a placeholder, so that there wouldn't be conflicts, there wouldn't be, well, I mean, there still could be conflicts if they run for another seat, I suppose. And I don't even know how to address that. If someone runs for, let's say, one council member that's gonna run for re-election, is that person gonna be able to vote for that person, or is that gonna be able to I don't know, objectively vote for that person?
I think, guys, we should just let it play out like it plays out and not overthink it. Just let it be what it's going to be.
At this point, folks, I will put the interviews for the applicants on the 11th, as we've discussed. That'll be a new business item. Well, it'll be an old business, actually. And then that night, you can make a decision again by motion to either move the election right then and there, or you can move the election process to the 25th. That's going to be your choice that night on the 11th.
So be here on the 11th, everybody.
Be here on the 11th. Is that good? Can I take that as my final direction, council?
Yes, for me, yes.
All right. There we go. Well,
Mayor.
thanks. Oh, Terry, go ahead.
One more thing, is it appropriate to ask, find out if the candidates are coming in person or if they're not? Because honestly, if they were all coming in person, I would want to come in person. Is it okay to ask that or find that out?
It sure is. When we send the message out to them, we'll ask them what their preference is and make sure that they know what the process would be, how to get here, or how to link in, and then we'll let you all know what you can expect that night as
Okay.
they RSVP for that.
Okay, that'd be great. Thank you.
All right. Does anybody need to stretch? Don't want anybody getting blood clots. Okay. I don't have anything of groundbreaking news that I want to share with council tonight. But I will ask City Administrator Graham if he has any updates that he'd like to share from City Hall, and then we'll go on to council member initiatives. Michael?
Maybe he's
Okay, so we'll go on to council member initiatives. So Molly?
So I only have one initiative, and this actually concerns our subcommittees, not our interior or internal subcommittees, but it concerns our commissions. For example, the Planning Commission. They have recently, I don't know if anybody except me actually reads the minutes from the Planning Commission meetings, but they have recently requested direction from council on different things like setbacks and zoning and stuff like that. And, for example, the hearing examiner recently heard a case with a petitioner who wanted to change some things about their setbacks because they were in a commercial residential zone and they had a strange, like an oddly shaped property, and they wanted to be able to still build there with different setbacks. And so the Planning Commission had expressed a desire for council to give them direction on this. I would really like to sit down with the Planning Commission as a body, as the City Council, with the Planning Commission, just make a group meeting where nothing is decided, just sort of a very informal study session so that they know where we are, we know where they are. We haven't actually sat down and talked to the Planning Commission in the entire time that I've been on City Council, which has been 2015. I think it would be a good idea that they know where we are, where we're standing and what our viewpoints are, so that they can use those viewpoints to make the decisions that they need to make. I understand that it might be a little awkward for one City Council member to sit down and talk with Planning Commission, because then it would be one City Council member expressing their own personal views and not those views of the council as a whole. So I understand why that could be difficult, but I do think that we need to sit down and talk to the Planning Commission and say, hey guys, here's who we are. Here's where we're going with things. There are no decisions being made at this meeting, but basically a meet and greet. That's all I have.
We'll ponder that a little bit, and then I have to look up some rules on that relationship between the Planning Commission and the City Council. Make sure
Yeah,
that-
I know there's rules, and I don't know what the rules are. So if you guys could look into that, that would be super helpful. Thank you.
Yes, but of
Mayor,
course, you do
as
know,
I-
hold on just a second, Terry, you do know that the council, the planning commission does have a process by which they can bring something to council, and they've done so numerous times. So if they need direction from the council, there's a process by which they ask for that, and they're well aware of that. Their members on that planning commission have been there for a very long time. They know the way through it, and so does Tammy. But I understand what you're asking for, Molly, and we'll see what we can do to make that meeting happen.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I was reading the minutes and they were expressly requesting direction from council. So,
Terry?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, from what I recall, is that Tammy was the liaison. So when the planning commission had something, she would, put it together and come to council with that request. That's how I remember it.
Yeah, and there is a process by which, again, an applicant who comes to the city and wants a variance, or they want something done with their zoning, there is a process they have to follow. It might then, it would go through our planning group. It may then have to go to a hearings examiner, and we've just recently been through that. And if they're not happy with the hearings examiner's decision, then it would come to the council for a quasi judicial hearing and decision. So we have to be careful not to step on top of that process. But we can still
but
have.
that's not what I said. I said that the planning commission has specifically asked our direction on a specific action item, and they have not come forward with their specific instruction that they're supposed to be doing to us. I don't know where that ball, whose court that ball is in. But if they want us to help them out and give them some direction, we need to be told about it.
Exactly. Okay. Councilmember Curry.
I do not have anything right now.
All right. Councilmember Wood.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I am out of initiative. Thank you.
All right. Councilmember DePino.
No new initiatives.
Nothing new. And Councilmember Kaminsky.
Also ditto, nothing. Thank you.
And then Councilmember Hardy, apparently you're on here. No, that's Jason, make sure everything is flowing smoothly. What you did tonight, we appreciate staff being able to be nimble and support us in these meetings. And we look forward to a time, hopefully someday soon, where we can meet in person and we don't have to do this. But as to EJ's question earlier, I believe we will be having hybrid meetings of some kind for quite a long time to come, at least for citizens to come in and present to us. It's actually increased the amount of people who have come in and addressed the council. So good thing. But with that, if there's no other good of the order,
To adjourn.
we are done. Thanks, everybody.
I'd say